does animal rebellion mean to you?
Absolutely. I mean, animal rebellion is a different take on animal rights. That's the thing about it is there's so many different tactics that we can use as a movement to push animal liberation further.
Yes.
And animal rebellion is just another one, you know. And
right.
I personally really appreciate what they're doing with the positivity and moving like the system change. I think that's a really good tactic. And so I'm just here to support them, and really help them spread their message as much as possible.
System change. Yeah. What does system change mean
absolutely.
to you?
So system change, I mean, if you look at the system, and it's around the world, it's not just in the UK.
Yes.
It's very heavy. I'm from the US, and it's very heavy there as well. I mean, if you look at the subsidies, for example, that are being given to animal farming, which is one of the most harmful industries on the planet, if you look at its environmental impact, those things are being funded by the government, which is actually using taxpayer dollars, to fund those operations. And so what we're trying to do is transition to a more just, system, and that will take animals out of the equation of food production, and it will stop the trillions of deaths of animals, and also help us with climate justice as well.
Right. And how will it help us with climate justice?
Yeah. So
what's the issue with animals and climate change?
Absolutely. So I mean, this is something I never knew growing up. I used to eat meat all the time, but if you look at meat, for example, the impact of meat, it's really inefficient. Basically, what happens is if you think about it, we have 1 billion people starving, and yet what we're doing is we're feeding the vast majority of grains around the world. For example, up to 70% of world soybeans actually go towards animals when we have human beings starving. 70% of our world soy production, it's a massive amount of soy that could be going into other things. It could be going into biofuels, it could be going into direct human consumption, all of these things. It's an inefficient system. It's just not a good idea. It's not a good idea at scale. And of course, that doesn't look at the ethics behind it, and you start looking at the ethics of slaughtering animals and raising them their entire lives in, places where they'll never see the sunlight. And we have to ask ourselves, is that how I want to source, my breakfast?
Hi. So where you guys come from?
I'm from Switzerland.
From?
Switzerland.
Switzerland. You come all the way from Switzerland for Animal Rebellion?
I came from Frankfurt. I'm touring around in Germany, but I came today from Frankfurt. Yeah.
Right, nice and loud. This is for Germany. Okay, so what does Animal Rebellion mean to you, and what prompted you to come out tonight?
We're here for the animals and fight for a system change, because we have only some years left until the tipping point is reached for climate change.
Yes.
So we're here to be the voices for the animals and to fight for a better world together in solidarity, no matter where we come from, how long we're activists or if we're activists, no matter if we're vegetarians or vegans, just that we fight alongside for a better world.
And why, for you, is animals such an issue for climate change?
Because they need so much space to feed animals, and they need a lot of space to plant the crops that they feed to the animals, so they're burning down the Amazon. It's literally burning completely down, and this is the lungs of the earth, so we cannot breathe if we don't have trees anymore. And all the animals together, they are making more CO2 emissions than all vehicles, including planes together. So we gotta really change something, otherwise we cannot survive anymore.
And you've been nice and silent here. you got to assert yourself. What does climate change mean to you guys?
I think animal rebellion is a different kind of way of trying to make change, because we've been trying to make change in a lot of different ways. And we have this, they even declared an emergency, climate emergency, but yet they're not doing anything about it. And we're doing this civil disobedience, trying to make a real change, like a system change, a political change, instead of trying to make individual change.
So for you, what's specific about, because there's Extinction Rebellion, what made you specifically focus on Animal Rebellion?
I think Animal Rebellion is a way of saying that it's about all of us, and it's about the ecological aspects, and it's about being together as not as a human species, but also with other animals, and saying that we need to survive this together. And it's not just a crisis for us, but for our other beings as well on this planet. And we need to fight for all of us.
Yeah. For you, your personal values, why would you say that it's an unethical system?
In terms of the ethics in it, there are creatures that are essentially being tortured to death amongst their family, which is an incredibly distressing experience for any living being. And you can see evidence of this across slaughterhouses in the UK, across farms in the UK. I've been to many slaughterhouses myself and seen it firsthand. All animals, free-range, organic, grass-fed, are going through the same process where, for example, the pigs are being gassed to death amongst their family, amongst their friends at a very young age, living very short lives, and ending them in an incredibly stressful way. Now, the science shows that we as humans don't need to be consuming these kind of products in order to survive and thrive. So if it's unnecessary for us to do, then the question is, why do we continue to torment these creatures who have as much of a right to live as we do?
What's your vision for a future that's more ethical towards animals and towards the planet?
So in the long term, for me personally, I would like to see the complete reduction of the animal agriculture industry, and for us to convert to plant-based foods, plant-based farming. I'd like to see rewilding of the lands which has been used for animal agriculture, and for our resources and subsidies to be put towards ethical and plant-based products, so that our farmers can continue working, but in ways which don't involve the torment of billions of living creatures. That's what I'd like to see.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
What's the point of this? What are you doing now?
Sorry, mate.
It's all right. Why are you marching? Okay, I respect
Let a small group of people change the world indeed. It is the only thing that ever counts. Never doubt. Let a small group of people change the world indeed. Let a small group of I'm here because obviously we need to change the system that we're in, and this is probably the best chance we've got of doing it. And Animal Rebellion sort of paving the way for this idea of a systemic change, which you don't see spoken about much in animal rights. And
so what do you mean by a systemic change?
A change from a meat-based food system to an animal, or away from an animal towards a plant-based food system.
Yeah. So what would you like to see happen as a result of animal rebellion?
I would like to see the government start changing the way they make their subsidies. So subsidies start moving more towards aiding farmers who are growing crops rather than aiding farmers who are farming animals. Animal agriculture.
And for you, what are the big concerns about animal agriculture? Why is it a subject that you feel so strongly about?
Well, there are several reasons. It's if you watch any video you care to see, I mean, there's one filmed in England called Land of Hope and Glory. The animals are clearly not in general very well cared for. The medical science now is showing that eating animal proteins is bad for human health, and also the amount of pollution caused by animal agriculture is beginning to devastate the planet and has been doing so for many years.
So how is animal agriculture causing pollution?
Well, you just get runoff from fields of animal slurry. You get changes in nitrous oxide and methane going into the atmosphere.
So for people watching this video, you say methane going into the atmosphere. How is that being caused?
Well, from cows, mainly.
And what would you say if one of the butchers comes in here, and say, well, what are you doing here? Why are you making such a fuss? This is our livelihood. We've had meat markets here since medieval times. What would you want to say? What would you want to say to him or her?
Well, we've had all sorts of things that 20 years ago everybody smoked in pubs, and then the government started labelling it as carcinogenic. They could quite easily do the same thing with red and processed meats. They're known to be carcinogenics. To a worker here, I would say they'd reap the rewards of switching to a plant-based food system, both personally and both in a business sense. More people would be able to work. Less of the problems that I've mentioned earlier.
To do what you do, and it is what it is, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah. If you could have a one-to-one with somebody, there are questions that you would want to ask them.
Not particularly. Not particularly.
Right.
So we just go about our business.
Right.
You're allowed to go about yours, and it's as straightforward as that.
Okay. I've kept the camera down, so not on camera. Would you be happy to say that on camera?
No, I wouldn't.
You'd rather not. That's no problem at all, mate. But thank you very much. I've been talking to people in
I'll smash your video, I'm half Facebook.
Okay, mate. Thank you very much.
Cunt down here, mate. I'll tell you about that crack.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's cracked already.
Passing by, needed a wee.
Right.
stopped. How do we? I
Right.
don't have a strong point of view.
If I don't put the camera on you, is it okay if I ask you a few questions about what you feel about animal rebellion?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Sorry?
You're right. You're doing the right thing for the world.
Yeah.
And it's got to be changed now, ain't it?
Yeah.
But there's certain ways of going about it.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, it's, I like the peaceful protest.
Yeah.
I think the government's who we've got to bring this to.
Yeah.
This is who are the biggest problems in this. It's not going to change unless the government change their ways.
Yes.
So, but I'm glad you guys are here in a way.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it's peaceful because it wouldn't have been it wouldn't have been a nice thing it not being peaceful.
Sure.
There would only been one winners, and that's the Smithfield boys.
Right.
But I'm joking.
Yeah.
No, it's just nice. It's peaceful.
I take it you work here.
I think so.
Yeah.
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 No, that's nice. It's nice.
Right.
Yeah, and like I said, you're not in the wrong. You're in the right.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Anything that what you feel about animal rebellion and what's happening here tonight?
What can I say? Yeah, they're right, it's nice and peaceful, no problems, don't think they've got it, as they say. It is on its violent now, but we've got a view on it really.
Yeah.
People are going to eat when they're going to eat, and that is it,
Yeah.
That's it, really.
So I come from Paris to come here tonight, and I come because I've seen all the talks that say that now we really have to do something, there is an urgency.
Yes.
We don't have time to make people go vegan one by one. Now we really need to strike hard with specific civil disobedience so that the government and the politics, they understand that there is an urgency, that every second it's billions of animals that are suffering and that we need to change something now.
And to you, what does civil disobedience mean?
For me it means breaking a little law to make people realize that there is a real problem, because if you just stand here with flowers, they don't take it seriously. So once you do something this huge, they say, oh, maybe there is something that we should analyze. There is a problem with the situation, and they think about it and they open their eyes, hopefully.
And what would you like to see happen as a consequence of animal rebellion?
In the very, very close future, some more rights in the law for animals. For example, the right to rescue is very important. Because
the right to?
The right to rescue. So the right so that we don't get charges when we rescue animals from terrible conditions.
Yes.
I think that's the most easy thing to get from the government, and it would really help us save some animals and show the world the cruelty, so that they open their eyes a bit more quickly.
So can you give me some examples of what you mean by saving animals from terrible conditions? Because people watching the video might not understand fully.
So as direct action, some of the movements, they make investigation in big farms. Or they just go into big farms and find, take pictures to show the world how it is and what we eat, because people often they don't make the connection with the animals, and sometimes they go inside and they want to rescue all the animals, of course, but they take the few that are really in the worst shape so that they can give them a chance to have a happy life at the sanctuary to recover. And when they do that, they get charges, they get arrested, they get charges, and we would like that they don't. That they are whistleblowers, they say things are horrible here, they should not be charged for that.
And how do you see your role, how do you feel about Extinction Rebellion and the relationship between animal rebellion and Extinction Rebellion? Does Extinction Rebellion mean something to you?
I really like Extinction Rebellion. They really managed to get a lot of people up and in the streets, so it's really good. Of course, I'm more of an animal rebel. because I think the animals are suffering, and if we stop making them suffer, it will also heal the climate. So I wish all the people in Extinction Rebellion, all the people that are concerned about the climate, I wish they would realize that there is one simple solution, and it's to stop this massacre and to stop abusing and using animals.
And finally, you've got, okay, butchers have come into work. If you could have a one-to-one with one of the people working here, what would you want to say to them, or what would you want to ask them?
I have two sides to this question. One part of me would just like to yell and hit, but in the end I know they are victims of the society, of what they've learned their whole life. So I would maybe just try to make them understand that they are killing an animal and that it's wrong. So maybe ask a lot of questions, maybe to make the connection if they have pets or anything that would bring them to realize and to admit that there is something wrong with what they do with their lives, and that they should change.